Good.
We're talking with Michael Sweet of Stryper, and Michael, you're a busy man. You've got a lot of projects coming out this year. You've got the I'm Not Your Suicide solo album, the Honestly book, a project with George Lynch, and of course a Stryper tour. Anything else?
Well, yeah, I just joined Van Halen.
Oh,
now.
good.
It's crazy. There's a lot going on, and just when I feel like complaining, I remind myself that I'm very blessed to be where I'm at in my life and where I come from, and to have these opportunities is really astonishing and very humbling. So I don't have any regrets. I don't have any complaints whatsoever.
No regrets. Huh? So let's start off with the I'm Not Your Suicide solo album. It's been about 7 years since your last solo album. How do you decide what song makes it to Stryper and what song goes in the Michael pile?
Well, technically speaking, I mean, I look at my last solo album as being Truth. That was really released on a label.
Okay.
So that would have been 2000. So that's going back 14 years.
Wow.
In terms of what I decide goes on a solo album and a Stryper album, it's not really anything that I give a lot of thought to. I mean, of course, there are the no-brainers, songs like Coming Home that just wouldn't fit on a Stryper album.
Right.
Nor would we ever really consider doing anything like that. We want to try to stay true to our roots and give fans what they want on a Stryper album. But, I just write songs so often. I'm continuously writing on a daily basis, and I got a ton of ideas on my phone. And I just want an outlet to be able to share those songs with the world. And that's why I continue to do George Lynch projects and solo albums and Stryper albums and whatever else I can do, because it's just my expression in terms of what I do as a writer, as a producer, as a performer. So if I didn't have those outlets, I'd probably go out of my mind.
Okay.
Because I'm always humming a song, man. I drive everyone around me crazy because I'm always tuned into a song.
Do you write for other people as well? Are you doing songs and sending them off to country singers and other bands, or do you keep everything?
You know what? I've done some co-writing in the past few years. I had opportunities back in the '80s to co-write with some heavy hitters, with some big writers, and I was so busy I never took the time. I'm kind of kicking myself for that right now, but I've never really gone after that aggressively.
Right.
But I have done some co-writes with some country writers, country songs in Nashville. I'm Not Your Suicide is a co-write with Blair Daly,
right,
who co-wrote the song Smile, Uncle Cracker, and I mean he's Rascal Flatts #1. I mean he's a heavy hitter. He's a great writer, and he and I plan to write more together. And I'm really going down those paths of writing with more people. And I would like to, when I'm 65 or 70 years old, be sitting here at home with my guitar and my piano just writing songs. That'd be pretty ideal.
Yeah. Now, the other thing about the I'm Not Your Suicide, the first single, which is out on iTunes, a portion of it goes to ChildHelp. How did you get involved with that organization, and explain a bit, what is the organization?
Well, ChildHelp is an organization that's been around for quite a while.
Okay.
And they just, they defend and fight for protecting people, but primarily children.
Okay.
Children that are abused, be it by their parents, their relatives, or by other people, or bullied in school, whatever it is, whatever the situation is. And that's what the song was written about, as an anthem to people that are beaten down in life. And, many of us are. I mean, I went through that when I was younger in school. I moved a lot. I went to so many different schools. It was difficult for me to make friends. And, I was a skinny, scrawny, long-haired kid, and, definitely got picked on from time to time.
But were you bullied?
It's just an anthem. It's an anthem for people who are beaten down. And I felt that ChildHelp was a perfect organization to hook up with, and they agreed. They got real excited about what I was doing with that song, and we just felt like, you know what, let's do this. And there was no no second guessing whatsoever. We just did it and hit the ground running, and I'm proud to be a part of ChildHelp.
You hadn't been bullied when you were a child, though, were you?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not to the extent or the degree that some people are today, to the point where I was driven to thoughts of suicide.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't driven that far, but I was bullied left and right. Wow. I mean, I used to, starting out early on in second, third grade, I was always the smallest kid in school. I grew up rapidly. I think I grew 6 inches in my senior year. And then nobody picked on me anymore. But back early on, I was a skinny kid with long hair. Everybody thought I was a girl, because I kind of look like a girl.
Right.
And I got picked on for that. And I went to Pioneer High in Pico Rivera. It was predominantly gangbanger Hispanic school, and I was one of 5 white kids in the school, if that. And I remember, basically dodging the bullet every day and trying not to get jumped.
How did you
watching kid after kid get jumped every day?
How did you pull yourself out of all of that? That takes an incredible emotional toll, and people close up and they sort of hide from the rest of the world. What did you do to sort of get through it?
Music,
huh?
Music saved me. I mean, I remember when I started performing with my brother. I was very young, and we started performing at high schools and backyard parties. And I remember playing at Pioneer High at lunchtime. And from that moment on, I went from a geek to a loner, or what have you, whatever term you want to put on it, to a cool guy. I mean, I remember the cholos,
right?
The gangbangers looking at me, and before they'd say, "What are you looking at?" And then after I performed, from that day forward, they'd say, "Hey man, what's up?" And they were cool with me, and they accepted me because of the music. We played Hendrix or songs that they liked.
And hopefully you played some Kiss in there too.
Yeah, we always played Kiss. Always played Kiss. But yeah, man, music was my
salvation
at that time. My salvation.
Right.
It got me through.
Yeah, well, let's get back to the music for a second here. Let's not get too dark and down here. But the new album, you've got a whole bunch of guests: Tony Harnell, Doug Aldrich, Chris Jericho. How did you connect with all those guys, and what did they bring to the album, to the project?
Well, they are all my dear friends.
Okay.
Every single one of them. And I always wanted to make an album that, incorporated not just my friends, obviously, but incredible musicians, and have guest players on the album, just to kind of add some sugar and spice to it. And that's why I wanted all these people. I wanted even more. I have other people that I would have loved to have had on the album, that I've become really good friends with. And, that's what I was able to pull off. Thank God. I got Doug Aldrich, Chris Jericho, Tony Harnell, Electra Mustang, Kevin Max, who's an incredible singer. Really underrated. I mean, a lot of people don't know about him, but man, I always wanted him to do something with him, and I did it on this album, and I'm really glad I did, because it helps make for the diversity. I mean, the album is very complex and diverse, kind of all over the map, but in a good way.
Yeah, I got that impression listening to it. The song "Taking on the World Tonight" with Tony Harnell is an absolute barn burner. I mean, it's this melodic hard rock song that just grabs you right from the get-go, and then you go down to Heart of Gold, and it's more subdued. So you have a nice canvas here. It's well filled out. It's really well done, actually.
Well, I hope so. And you always run the risk when you do that, when you kind of go all over the place musically, of people not getting it. But it's something I've always done on solo albums.
But that's what you're supposed to do.
I listen to so many different types of music.
Right.
When I write on my own for solo album, with a solo album in mind, you're going to hear all different types of styles.
But that's what a solo album's supposed to be about, right? I mean, it's supposed to be, here's me, and here's what I like. Whereas a Stryper album or whatever band album is like, well, this is what the band sounds like.
Exactly, and that's what I did on this album, and because I do have an edgy side, and that's why you hear "Taking on the World" tonight and "Unsuspecting."
It's a great song. They're both great songs. Both great.
And
songs.
I have a poppy side. I love Keane.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles. That's why you hear a song like "This Time."
Yeah. Where is
you
this
know? I listen to everything, and I appreciate everything, and that really comes out on my solo albums.
Yeah. So what are the plans for this? Are you just going to release it and then that's it, or are there going to be solo dates?
Oh no, there's going to be solo dates. We're going to release it May 6th with the book.
Right.
And you know, there may be a few solo dates this year, but probably not too many, if any. Next year, Stryper's basically taking the year off. We're going to do Monsters of Rock cruise and a fan weekend, and maybe one or two other things, but for the most part, they're taking the year off. And I'm going to tour pretty consistently as a solo artist with acoustic dates and with full band dates, and then I'm going to also tour on the George Lynch Michael Sweet album as well.
Yeah, so let's get to talking about that album. Basically, what is it? Where did this come from? How did you hook up with George? What kind of music are you going to be making? I mean, with George on guitar, I'm assuming it's going to be a guitar-based, monster.
It is a guitar-based monster, but in a different way. And what I mean by that is how it came about was Serafino, the owner
of Frontier Records
of Frontiers,
right,
came to me and said, "Hey, I want to do a supergroup. I'm going to start doing these types of albums. I want you to be a part of the first one."
Okay.
And he said, "I'd like you to be the singer. Do you have any people in mind?" And my wheels started spinning, and I just started thinking, like, wait a second, just sing? Hold on. How about if I write and produce?
Right.
And when I mentioned that, he loved the idea. I became the producer and the writer, co-writer, and then I suggested George, and he loved the idea. And then I suggested Lomenzo and Tishy, Brian and James, and he loved that idea. So there, all of a sudden, became the band. And then once we had the band, George started writing riffs, like 1-minute songs, just an intro, verse, chorus, sent it to me, and then I added a lot of changes to those, and I added 3 other songs to it, and I went in and mapped it all out and copied and pasted and made them complete songs. And then Brian and James came out, did their parts. I came home, did my vocals, sent it all to George, and he did his guitars, and it's being mixed right now.
Okay, so the album, the recording's done.
It sounds like if you were to take Foreigner,
right,
and Bad Company,
okay,
throw in a little Van Halen and Journey, with just a trace of Stryper and Dokken, and that's the album you're going to get.
So it's
a classic rock album. It sounds like it takes you back to the 70s.
Which is a good place to be. And of course, Brian played with Foreigner for a bit. He drummed for them for a summer. So
he did, and that had nothing to do with the direction.
With the direction, but it's a nice time.
The ideas, the riffs George was sending to me were very classic sounding. The guitar tones and the riffs themselves, and man, it's just so cool. It's got that late 70s, early 80s, but not so much 80s vibe to it, and I'm thrilled. I'm excited because I didn't want it to be just another hard rock metal record.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. When you were with Stryper in the 80s and 90s, or up until 92, the record company must have come to you at some point and say, "We need a song for MTV. We need a song for AOR radio." Now that seems to be done. Are you in that place where you have this freedom to create as you wish and what you want with no AOR guy or label guy breathing down your neck?
Absolutely. I mean, and gratefully, I've gotten to a place where I think labels know what to expect with Michael Sweet.
Yeah.
And they respect that, and they allow me to basically have creative control and do whatever I want to do. And I don't say that in a pompous way. I'm just saying that, I've learned how to do my craft and hopefully do it well. And Serafino, when he asked me to produce an album, he hasn't even heard any of the songs. And we already did the album. And I think that's because there's a trust there that he knows what to expect. He knows it's going to be good.
Where did the songs come from? Were these songs you had sitting around, or did you write specifically for that project?
No, specifically. George sent me 9 ideas,
right.
minute and a half long ideas. I wrote 3 more because we needed 12. We're going to have a bonus mix, which will be 13. And I went down to my studio for one day a song, and I just arranged them and wrote them and wrote the lyrics and the melodies. And after 12 days, I emerged from my studio and went to the other studio and mapped everything out in 3 days.
Wow.
And then Brian and James came out and recorded their parts, and it just went like clockwork. And that's the way I write. Like if I get a phone call tomorrow from a label and they say, we want a Stryper album in 2 weeks, I'd go down to my studio every day and write a song a day, and we'd have the album. And that's how I wrote No More Hell to Pay.
Yeah, I guess sometimes a deadline can be very motivating, right?
It's very motivating, and it helps me because, I joke about my ADHD and my OCD and all that stuff, but it helps me to focus. If I have something to focus on, I hyper-focus on it.
Right.
And then I get it done.
Now, we're set up to talk for half an hour. We've got about 10 minutes left, so let's get on to the book. Honestly, My Life and Stryper Revealed. Why at this point write an autobiography? What's the story you're trying to tell?
Well, obviously it's autobiography. It's a story of my life.
Sure.
And the reason why I wanted to at this point in time share it is because of the healing power and the therapeutic. It was very therapeutic to me to write it and for me. There was a lot of stuff. I don't want to use the term to get off my chest, but just a lot of stuff I wanted to share.
Well, it was a catharsis.
And at the end of the day, my hopes and desires are to encourage other people that might be going through the same thing, like somebody that's lost their wife or lost their spouse.
Yeah,
talk about that. You
lost your wife to cancer. My wife just lost her dad to cancer. It's an incredibly difficult thing to deal with.
It is. It is. It's very difficult to deal with, and you don't really grasp it or understand it till you go through it.
Yeah, and it also sneaks up on you. It's sorry, I'm having a hard time thinking about it.
I talk about this in the book. I question God. I question if there was a God.
Right.
And coming from Michael Sweet of Stryper, that might make people, gasp.
Yeah, absolutely.
And say, what? But that's the reality of it. I'm a human being, and I'm not perfect. And when I was out mowing the lawn every day and my wife was dying, I was just thinking, how can this be? We've devoted our lives to you, God. Where are you?
Yeah, and
that's
so
how I felt.
And so, how do you come to terms with it? How do you come to terms with God's plan and your wife's condition, or? Well,
I tell you, I came to terms with it in many ways, but the most important way was realizing that God has a plan.
Yeah.
And thank God it's not mine.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. If I claim to be a Christian, then I better live by what God's Word, the Bible, says.
Right.
And the Bible's very clear on the fact that God's in control and he has a plan, and he knows what's best for us and won't give us more than we can handle. And, all these things that we've read and know from scriptures. So I better put that into play, especially at that time. It was my darkest hour, but I basically just literally days after Kyle passed, I picked up the phone and said, book a tour. And we went out and did a tour. And people thought, something's wrong with this guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at it and you think he's either in great denial or he's going to go out there and celebrate his wife's death, but not celebrate like it's a party that she passed.
Right. Totally. No, and that's it right there. I wasn't in denial. I just had to keep going forward because I knew she was okay. I know where she is, and going forward, I met my wife now, Lisa, who's an angel on earth. And, God's blessed me with her. And, I lost a lot of friends because I met someone so suddenly. It wasn't according to their plans and their ideas. And again, because they didn't go through it.
Yeah.
It's different for every person that goes through it. And
really
you can't really put those same or apply those same, you hear like I spoke to a pastor and he said, "Oh yeah, you should wait a year." And that doesn't apply to everybody. Some people wait years. Some people never meet anyone or remarry. I didn't wait long, and it just so happens I didn't go out seeking someone. I just found someone, and I ran with that. We fell in love, and that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that you met somebody so quickly is a heartwarming story. It really is.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, not everyone agrees with that.
No, but
you'd be amazed at the flack I got. But some people were just like brutal. And
yeah, I can understand the flack. I can sort of understand the flack, but at the same time, life and death is part of what living is, and you sort of can't put yourself in purgatory for 15 years. Yeah. I don't want to sound cold.
You can't, and it doesn't mean that you love that person any less. It just means that life does go on, and you have to go with it. You have to flow with it, or it will consume you. You'll become a depressed, miserable person who hides in a bedroom and does nothing. And I didn't want to become that person. I wanted to keep going, and I'm still dealing with stuff.
Of course.
I think I always will be here on Earth, but that's okay.
Let me try to get this interview back to some more sort of fluffy stuff here. A couple of weeks ago,
I like the fluff. That's okay.
No, I just it's heavy stuff sometimes. But you played a concert in New York, and Richard Christy, who's on the Howard Stern show, who's also in a band called Charred Walls of the Damned, came out and played drums with you. How did you? I mean, he professes his love for Stryper quite openly all over the place. How did you get to have him on on the drum kit, and what's your relationship with Richard?
I just looked out in the crowd and I saw his face. I knew he was going to be there, and I saw his face, and it was a spontaneous thing. I just thought, you know what? It'd be really cool to have Richard come up.
Right.
So I just over the mic said, "Richard, what are you doing, man?" And just brought him up, and it wasn't rehearsed or planned, and that probably shows on the YouTube video. But we had fun, and it was a thrill to play with Richard, and I hope it was a thrill for him to play with us. And I know he's a big fan, and I'm a big fan of Richard. He's a great guy. He's an awesome guy.
Well, actually, I emailed Richard and asked him about it because I know Richard.
Yeah.
And he sent me this email back, if I can read it to you. He said, tell him that it was an honor for me to play sing-along song with them last Saturday in New York City. And tell him that, ask him if he realizes how much I'm still freaking out about it. It was one of the biggest things that ever happened to me in my life, and I couldn't wait to tell my parents about it because they took me to my very first concert ever, which was Stryper in White Lion in 1988.
Yeah, he was just a kid, and his parents took him to see us.
Huh?
And he tells me that story, and it's just so amazing. I mean, to look at Richard at such a young age and how the band and the music and the message of the band touched his life, and then look at it now. He's a grown man and almost our age, and he talks about us and the effect that it's had on his life, and that's really powerful stuff. Really great.
It really is, and Richard's is a funny character. Speaking of other characters, let me throw a couple more names at you. In your book, you write about Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker and how they affected your life or played a role in your life. They're certainly surrounded by controversy. What was your relationship with them, and how did they affect your life? And were you disappointed in how their lives ended up with their controversy?
No, I wasn't disappointed. I first of all, I thought they were two of the nicest people that I've ever been honored to meet and had the opportunity to meet. They really are.
Right.
And I know Tammy's passed, but um, two of the sweetest, nicest, most humble people who just got caught up
Right.
in power and corruption like any one of us could. And that's the thing. It's in all of us to do what they did.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So who am I to sit there and point a finger and attack them like the world did and just, I still think that because they had the Christian tag, that's why they got attacked. Most of the world hates the name Christian or the word Christian or the word Christianity, and they're quick to, like wolves, jump on it and devour it. And, that's why Christians are portrayed as buffoons in practically every movie you go see. But, and that pisses me off,
right.
to be honest. That just pisses me off. But aside from that, they were great people, and you know what? They got caught up in a bunch of muck, and unfortunately, they had to. You reap what you sow, and you pay your dues, and they had to pay their dues. And but man, great people who came and saw us and supported us, and were awesome.
And then, I see that we only have about 5 minutes left. I was going to ask you about Boston, but I'll throw one more name out from your book, Chapter 18. You talk about Anthrax's Scott Ian.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently on YouTube there's a video of him talking about a gig you did together, and can you tell me that story real quick?
Yeah, Scott seems like a great guy. I've met him on many occasions, and I don't really know him personally that well, but he also seems like a guy that just kind of gets his storylines messed up just a little bit.
Right.
And doesn't tell it exactly as it was. He portrayed that as on YouTube as it was an Anthrax gig and an Anthrax crowd, and that's just not true.
Okay.
It was a Stryper and Anthrax gig. There was another band on the bill, and we had a big crowd there too.
Yeah.
So, that's all. That's what I talk about in the book. And he just made it sound like, why were we on the bill? And, all the Bibles were being thrown back and the crowd hated us and, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not the way it was. As a matter of fact, our fans were booing Anthrax.
Must have been a great
that's part
gig.
Of the story you don't hear from Scott,
Right. What a fun-loving gig that sounds like.
Oh yeah, it was lots of fun and love.
So people should definitely pick up the book honestly, and of course the new CD. I'm Not Your Suicide. I guess can you just end up then with a quick word on your time with Boston? Was that any fun?
That was a lot of fun. I basically got to go out and tour with a childhood favorite of mine. I mean, a big influence of mine, musically speaking. And I got to go tour with him as a co-lead singer and a guitar player. And I got the gig because, tragically, Brad Delp committed suicide. Yeah. And they were going to perform their last show, which was August 19th in Boston, 2007. And they asked me to come be a part of it along with Sammy Hagar and Ann Wilson and Mickey Thomas and just a whole bunch of people.
All great
and what
vocalists.
Happened was, I was going to go sing just a song or two, like B-sides, a song called Higher Power and some other song. And when they said that on the phone, I was kind of bummed out. And then eventually, over a few weeks of time, all the other singers started dropping out and saying, we can't do it. And Tom went out and bought some Stryper albums and gave me a call. I was mowing the lawn. I remember it so clearly. And called me and said that he had heard us for the first time and he loved it, loved my voice, loved the songwriting. I just thought that was incredible coming from Tom Scholz. Mm-hmm. And he said, I love it so much, I want to invite you to come and sing whatever you want to sing. And that's when I wound up going from Higher Power to More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Rock and Roll Band. It was just amazing. And he didn't apparently know that I played guitar. And I learned all this stuff on guitar, and I walked in there with guitar, and he was very surprised, and we started going through guitars only, and he was blown away. I mean, he stopped and smiled ear to ear and said, "Oh my God, Gary, the guitars have never sounded this good." And I think that really helped get me the gig. And we went and did the show. And after the show, he came back and said we weren't going to continue on, but this went so well. We like you so much. We want to continue on. We want you to be a part of it. And that was it.
And that was it. And that was a great thing. And so, listen, we're at half an hour. I just want to thank you for your time. I could speak to you for another hour, quite frankly. And I guess we'll encourage people to go to michaelsweet.com and pick up the album and the book and all that wonderful stuff. And, of course, Stryper is on tour this summer, and you'll be in Ottawa, which is right in my neck of the woods, at the end of June or early July, I believe.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, buddy, for talking to me,
You're welcome.
It's a thrill, and I appreciate the support and the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye, guys.